Have you ever said something that, the moment it left your lips, you wished you could take it back? Maybe it was during a heated argument, or just a careless joke meant to get a laugh. But later, as silence fell and the weight of your words settled in, you realized, too late, that someone had been hurt. Deeply. We live in a world where words are everywhere. We speak, we text, we post, we comment. And sometimes, without even knowing it, we let sharp words fly like arrows, not thinking about where they'll land, or what damage they'll cause. But in many ancient cultures, and especially in Buddhist thought, words are not just sounds. They are energy. Karma. Seeds. What we say doesn't just affect others, it shapes our future, our peace of mind, and even our destiny. There's a saying from old Chinese wisdom that goes, "A mouth that doesn't accumulate virtue will harm others, and eventually, harm itself." At first glance, it sounds simple. But behind it lies a deep and powerful truth about verbal karma, how the things we say come back to us in unexpected ways, often when we least expect them. To explore that truth, let me share with you an old story, one that takes place in a quiet village during the Ming Dynasty. It's a story of cruelty disguised as humor, and of how the karma of words can unfold like a shadow that never lets go. Let's begin. Long ago, during the Ming Dynasty in a quiet countryside village of China, there lived a man named Wang Hosheng. He had been born both deaf and mute. His wife was also afflicted, she had a disability that made walking painful and slow. Yet, despite their physical challenges, they were blessed in other ways. The couple had 2 children, a son and a daughter, both bright and kind-hearted. Their home was small, modest, but filled with warmth. The family was known for their humility, their gentle way of living, and how they never once quarreled with their neighbors. They lived quietly, content with what they had, grateful for each day. But as life often reminds us, goodness does not always shield us from cruelty. In the same village lived a man named Go Tang. Unlike Wang Hosheng, Go Tang was loud, arrogant, and had a cruel streak he often tried to pass off as humor. He took pleasure in mocking those who were different or weaker than him. He believed that kindness was weakness and that making others feel small somehow made him bigger. One morning, it was the first day of the Lunar New Year, a time traditionally reserved for joy, hope, and wishing well to others. The entire village was buzzing with celebration. Families wore new clothes, children played with firecrackers, and elders exchanged blessings for health and prosperity. Go Tang, however, had something else in mind. Spotting Wang Hosheng walking peacefully through the village square, he walked over, clasped his hands in mock respect, and said loudly with a crooked smile, "Dear Uncle Wang, I wish you a happy new year. May you break your leg this year, may your wife lose her voice, may your son become a thief and your daughter be forced to sell herself." The villagers nearby gasped in shock. But Wang Hosheng, unable to hear or speak, only saw the man bowing and assumed it was a kind greeting. He smiled gently and bowed in return. Go Tang laughed heartily, satisfied with his cruel joke. To him, it was just another moment of entertainment, a throwaway insult disguised as humor. But karma does not recognize what we call just a joke. That same year, Go Tang set off on a journey to trade horses in a faraway town. On the way, he was ambushed by a group of bandits. They stole everything, his money, his horses, even the clothes off his back. One of them, the leader, raised a shining dagger to his throat and said, "If we let you live, you might report us. We can't risk that." Go Tang, trembling, dropped to his knees. "Please spare me," he cried. "I have elderly parents, a wife, children. I swear, I won't say a word to the authorities." The leader stared at him, then chuckled darkly. "We'll leave you alive, but you won't forget us." He struck Go Tang's leg with the blunt side of his blade. A loud crack echoed through the woods as Go Tang screamed and collapsed, his leg broken. He lay there, bloodied and alone, until a kind herbalist passing through helped bandage him and left him some herbs. It took Go Tang weeks to crawl back to the village, using branches as makeshift crutches. By the time he returned, he was emaciated, limping permanently, and barely recognizable. But the nightmare had only just begun. When he finally stepped into his home, exhausted and relieved, he called out to his wife. She looked up from mending clothes, and her face went pale. She opened her mouth to speak but not a sound came out. "What happened to you?" he cried. She gestured with her hands, tears in her eyes. Go Tang didn't understand at first. Then she pointed to her throat and shook her head. She had lost her voice. Too much crying, the neighbors would later say. Too many sleepless nights. Panicked, he asked about the children. She pointed silently outside. A young cousin happened to pass by the gate at that moment. Seeing Go Tang, he hesitated, then sighed. "Uncle, I'm sorry to say this, but your son was caught stealing. He's been locked up in the town jail. And your daughter, she went to the city market weeks ago and hasn't returned. Some say she might have been kidnapped." Go Tang felt the world fall out from beneath his feet. In just 2 months, everything he once mocked had come true, but not for the man he insulted. For himself. Desperate, he scraped together money to try and bribe the officials to release his son. But the new magistrate was known for being strict and incorruptible. The money was returned, and his son remained imprisoned. He searched endlessly for his daughter, traveling from town to town. Eventually, he found her, sitting in the corner of a dim, run-down brothel. Her silk clothes could not hide the emptiness in her eyes. She looked at him without emotion. "Come home," he begged. "We can start over." She shook her head slowly. "I can't. I won't bring more shame to what's left of our family." No matter how he pleaded, she would not leave. Heartbroken, Go Tang wandered back toward the village. One day, sitting on the roadside in silence, he was approached by a traveling monk collecting alms. The monk paused, sensing his grief, and gently asked, "Why is your heart so heavy, friend?" Unable to hold it in any longer, Go Tang collapsed in tears, recounting everything that had happened, the joke, the bandits, his leg, his family's downfall. The monk listened without judgment. When the story ended, he bowed his head and softly recited, "Amitabha." "Let us go," he said, "I want to meet the man you spoke of, Wang Ho Sheng." They arrived at Wang's home. The man was in the yard, chopping wood slowly and peacefully. His movements were graceful, almost meditative. Though he could not hear their footsteps or their voices, he smiled kindly when he saw them. The monk stepped forward, bowed, and said, "Brother Wang, I honor you." Wang returned the bow with the same gentle smile. The monk stared for a moment, then quietly chanted another Amitabha, and turned to leave. Outside the gate, Go Tang followed him. "Master, what did you see? Why didn't you speak with him?" The monk looked into the distance and said, "Wang Ho Sheng cannot hear evil. He cannot speak evil. His heart is like clear water at the source of a mountain spring, untouched, undisturbed. Even when cursed, he only smiles. That kind of goodness is protected by the universe itself." He looked at Go Tang, whose eyes were filled with shame and pain. "You see now," the monk continued, "that words are not harmless. What we say plants seeds, and in time, those seeds grow into the life we must live. The harm you wished upon another did not touch them. It became your own harvest." Go Tang sank to his knees on the dusty road, whispering through tears, "I understand now. My own tongue destroyed me." The monk nodded. "But understanding is the first step. If you truly wish to change, you must begin again. Speak kindness. Live with compassion. Only then can you water new seeds that may one day bloom into peace." That story, though ancient, carries a truth we often forget in our modern lives. And that brings us to the next part of our journey today. What exactly is verbal karma, and why do our words carry so much weight? Words are invisible, but their weight is immense. Just as a pebble tossed into a still lake sends ripples far beyond where it lands, our words, whether whispered or shouted, have a reach that we rarely measure. In Buddhism, verbal karma is one of the three core forms of karma: body, speech, and mind. And among them, speech is often the one we use most carelessly. We speak without thinking. We joke without empathy. We criticize without compassion. Yet every word carries intention, and intention carries consequence. Think about it, a single sentence can destroy someone's self-worth. A careless comment can plant seeds of doubt that take years to uproot. Conversely, a kind word, even a simple, "I believe in you," can lift someone from the depths of despair. Speech is never just sound, it's action. This is why the Buddha emphasized right speech as one of the steps in the Noble Eightfold Path. Right speech means speaking truthfully, kindly, and at the right time. It means choosing words that build rather than break, heal rather than hurt. But the truth is, we all stumble. We all say things we regret. The key is becoming aware, to pause before we speak, to ask, is this true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? And while the story of Gotang feels distant and dramatic, verbal karma is alive and well in our everyday lives. Which brings us to today, our modern world, filled with tweets, texts, and anonymous comments. What does verbal karma look like now? Let's take a closer look. In today's fast-paced world, words travel faster than ever. A single sentence, once spoken into the digital wind, can circle the globe in seconds. And unlike face-to-face conversations, online words lack tone, eye contact, or the warmth of human presence. Yet the karmic impact remains just as real, if not amplified. Take for example the story of a high school student in the US who posted a harsh joke about a classmate online, something he thought was just teasing. But the classmate, already struggling with depression, took it to heart. The emotional spiral that followed led to counseling, isolation, and almost dropping out of school. The student who made the post later admitted, "I didn't think a few words could do that much damage. But they did." Or the office worker who constantly made sarcastic remarks to a new colleague, meant to be humorous, but laced with subtle digs. Over time, the colleague started withdrawing, stopped contributing in meetings, and eventually quit. The company lost a promising talent, and the sarcastic coworker realized too late that his style of joking was pushing people away. On the flip side, there are countless stories of people whose kind words changed lives. A manager who told her employee, "You have real leadership potential," and years later, that employee became a leader and credited that moment as the spark. Or a stranger who noticed someone crying at a bus stop and simply said, "You're not alone." That small gesture became the turning point in someone's darkest hour. Words shape reality. Not just for others, but for ourselves too. The energy we send out comes back, often in ways we never expect. This is verbal karma, unfolding not in fables or scriptures, but in real workplaces, classrooms, families, and friendships every day. But if karma is always working in the background, why do we still get it wrong so often? Let's explore some of the most common mistakes people make with their words, and how we can begin to speak more mindfully. If words carry power, and they do, why do so many of us still speak in ways that wound, mislead, or divide? The truth is, we often don't realize we're doing it. Many of the most harmful speech habits are subtle, almost automatic. They're patterns we pick up from childhood, social media, workplace culture, or even the stress of daily life. But becoming aware of them is the first step to change. One of the most common mistakes is disguising cruelty as humor. You've heard it before, "I was just kidding." Used to brush off comments that clearly hurt. Sarcasm, passive-aggressive remarks, or roasts can sometimes create laughter, but they often leave a sting. When jokes punch down instead of lifting up, the karma they create isn't laughter, it's pain. Another is venting under the illusion of honesty. We think that speaking our mind without filter is being authentic. But honesty without compassion is just brutality. There's a difference between being truthful and being tactless. Words don't need to be sharp to be sincere. Then there's gossip, an especially sneaky form of verbal karma. It feels harmless, even bonding, to talk about someone who isn't present. But gossip poisons trust. It erodes relationships, not just with the person being discussed, but also among those doing the talking. As the saying goes, those who gossip with you will gossip about you. And let's not forget speaking without listening. Sometimes, our words cause harm simply because we're not tuned in. We interrupt. We assume. We give advice when someone just needed a quiet presence. The karma here isn't dramatic, but it's cumulative. It slowly pushes people away. Each of these habits, joking at someone's expense, brutal honesty, gossip, and poor listening, might seem small on their own. But over time, they shape our relationships, our reputation, and even our inner peace. The good news? These are patterns we can shift, starting today. By choosing words that uplift, connect, and reflect mindfulness, we begin to rewrite the karma we create. So how do we do that? What are some simple, practical ways to speak with more care and compassion? Changing the way we speak doesn't require grand gestures. It starts in the smallest moments, with the tone we choose, the pauses we take, and the heart we bring into our words. One of the simplest and most powerful tools is the pause. Before speaking, especially in a moment of anger or stress, take a breath. That small pause gives space for wisdom to rise above reaction. So often, our worst words come from rushing. Another practice is asking before offering. Sometimes people just need to be heard, not fixed. So instead of jumping in with advice, try asking, do you want support or just someone to listen? This single sentence shows respect, care, and clarity. Then there's the power of intentional compliments. Not empty flattery, but genuine, specific praise. Tell your colleague, I admire how you handled that tough situation. Or your partner, I really appreciate how you always think of the little things. These words plant seeds of connection and trust. Reframing complaints is another gentle shift. Instead of saying, you never help around the house, try, it would mean a lot to me if we shared the load more evenly. The message is similar, but the delivery invites teamwork rather than defensiveness. And of course, there's the timeless practice of loving speech from Buddhist teachings. Speak only what is true, kind, timely, and beneficial. These 4 gates help us reflect, is it true? Is it necessary? Is it the right time? Will it help? Speaking with compassion doesn't mean we avoid hard truths, it means we deliver them with care. It's not about being perfect, but about being present and kind. And sometimes, the most compassionate words are the ones we say to ourselves. Many of us carry an inner voice that's harsh and critical. But when we learn to speak gently inside, we begin to show up more gently outside too. These practices aren't just about creating better relationships. They're about creating a better world, one mindful word at a time. Words shape our world. They build bridges, or burn them. They carry comfort, or cut deep. But the most beautiful thing is, we get to choose. Every day, we're given countless moments to speak, to ourselves, to loved ones, to strangers. In each of those moments, we have a quiet but powerful choice. Will I speak from kindness or from ego? From understanding or from impulse? Let today be the day we begin choosing differently. Let's speak slower. Let's listen deeper. Let's catch ourselves before sarcasm slips out, before criticism takes over. Let's pause and ask, is this helpful? Is this loving? Maybe there's someone in your life who still carries the weight of your words. Maybe there's something you said, long ago, that needs an apology, a healing conversation, or a simple note saying, I see now. I'm sorry. It's never too late. The karma of our words isn't just punishment, it's also an invitation to return, to repair, to grow. And maybe today, you'll also use your words to lift someone up, someone who doesn't expect it. A child who needs encouragement. A friend who's quietly struggling. A stranger who just needs a little kindness. That one gentle word might echo in them longer than you'll ever know. If this story and reflection stirred something in your heart, don't let it fade. Let it move through you, and out into the world. Share this message. Share this video with someone who might need a little light today. Subscribe to our channel for more stories that nourish the spirit and awaken the heart. And in the comments, tell us, what's one thing you'll start saying differently after today? Thank you for being here. May your words be seeds of peace, and your voice a river of compassion. Until next time, keep walking gently.